So welcome to Cherish Cars, brand new YouTube channel. We have just started up, so absolutely no subscribers, no kind of sense of how to do this. We're going to learn as we go. I'm doing it all off an iPhone, and basically the purpose behind this channel is simply to share with you a bit of an interest in getting cars, nothing too posh, nothing too new, doing them up and moving them on. Not really to make money as such, but just to cover the cost of doing the works and to get free motoring essentially. Here is the very first car on the channel. This is a 2013 2-litre diesel EcoFlex Vauxhall Insignia. It's got 108,000 miles on the clock. Came to me with about 106,000 miles on it. Let's have a little walk around the car and let's have a little look at it. So, first things first, looking down the side. Just watching my shadow. It's a beautiful day this morning. It's dirty, it's absolutely filthy. It's been up to Scotland and back. And it hasn't had a wash, so there's a fair bit of salt and road grime on there. But in essence, what we talk about here, well, we've got a nice straight body down the driver's side, no major dings, scratches or dents, nothing really of note. We've got decent Michelin tyres on the back. I think the tread's getting a little bit thin on there, probably they're going to want changing reasonably soon, but they're okay for now. But the main issue on the back really is the fact that you can't really see down there, but the brake pads are getting really thin, and you can see it on the other side. It's a major issue that wants doing very soon. Down at the front, we've got cheaper tyres, a little bit hazy and cracking on the side of them to be fair, but the tread, if you can see that tread's decent on them. And again, the brakes are okay on here. The discs are slightly worn, no major problems, just slight lip on the side there. But the actual pads themselves are okay, so they're not urgent. One issue we have got is seems to be a little bit paint or something like that. You know, it is scraping off, so I don't think that'll be a big problem. I'll worry about that when I give it a good clean, but it just looks like somebody's hit at an old can of paint or something like that and it's come up. But yeah, no big problems so far. Walking around the front of the car, all nice and straight and tidy. However, you can see there's a fair bit of misting in these headlights. This one's not so bad, although it's got the full weight of the sun on it, but you can see on this side there's a lot of condensation in that light. Now these Vauxhall lights are quite famous for having problems. Fortunately this one doesn't have the really expensive boosting pack in it. I forgot what they're called now, but yeah, that should be a straightforward job to take them off and give them a fix, probably by drying them out and getting some silicone beaded around the sides. But I've got a couple of bulbs I need to have a look at, and at least one needs replacing. So coming down this side now, car's in good nick. There's no major problems on the front with the paintwork. One thing I have noticed, which probably won't show up very well with it being so dirty, is there are quite a few stone chips that have been touched in, but not the best job. So I think a decent mop and polish when the car's clean, I will have a proper look at them. But you know, standing back a bit, nothing to worry you or put you off. Again, coming around to the front, again we've got Sentra tyres on, similar kind of tread wear, no issues indicating any suspension problems. And again, the discs are okay. There's a little bit of a lip, but there's nothing to get excited about. The front's absolutely fine. But the first major problem we're going to hit is, if you can see it on the camera, there's a decent little dint in the passenger side door there. So the great news is the actual paintwork itself isn't damaged, so potentially get away with a paintless repair on that. But that's going to be a project, that's going to be a job before I can sell the car on. And then coming down to the back, again we've got some decent tyres on here. They're not Michelin, but they are in good nick, and the tread's a fair bit better. So it's obviously had a newer tyre on this side. The big problem I've got, if you can see it, is this pad, this disc is getting really scored. You can actually feel it with the back of my nail. You can absolutely feel that that's being dug into. And the reason for that, depending on if you can see it or not, is in here, the actual brake pad itself is right down to the metal. So that wants changing straight away. This is also the side of the car that the electronic handbrake operates on as well. So I don't know whether there's a problem with that, with the electrical caliper. It could be more involved than just a pad, but we're going to start off with looking at discs and pads, and that's going to be the first job on this car, because as it is at the moment, I'm not going to be wanting to drive this vehicle, not least of all because it's making a horrible noise. Right, and then coming around to the back, so again, absolutely great. The roof's in good nick, there's no problems at all. It's got a heated rear on it. It's a lovely car. It's got a few little battle scars as you'd expect, but there's nothing major to cause any problems. It's got parking sensors, so that's quite a nice little touch. Obviously the slightly higher level brake, but yeah, everything's good about the back. Now I said the brakes were the first job for the car, but actually I told a bit of a fib. Because when it first came, it only had one key, and it was one of these crappy aftermarket cheap jobs. They're not the best. Yeah, this is probably the kind of thing you can get on the high street for about 150, 175 quid as a replacement key. There's nothing wrong with it, and it will work, but it's just not very good quality. And as you can see, the actual buttons themselves started to wear out on it. So the first job I actually did was to get these replaced and to get a couple of these keys done. So much better condition, much better quality, nice good firm snap out blade on it, so nothing to go wrong with that. And as you can see, I've gone from the 2-button remote to the 3-button remote. Why have I done that? Well, if I just stand back a second, if I hold down the boot release, you can see the back's unclipped, but the actual car itself is still locked. It's just a nice, useful little feature. In and of itself, it's not going to sell a car or make a difference to the resale value, but it just means that if I've got the shop in, I can just lift this up one-handed. Right, so what have we got in the boot? So a little bit of prior planning and preparation went into this. So I've mentioned the rear brakes and discs. I'm going to do them. Other jobs and other little projects I've got on the car already. In the back corner there, I've got a paintless dent repair kit just off Amazon. Don't know if it's going to be any good or not. I'm going to do an unboxing on that, and we'll do a video on how they work or don't work. I'm a bit skeptical, to be honest. We'll see. If it works well, then great. I've saved myself the cost of getting somebody out to do that work. The actual kit itself was probably about half the cost of a paintless repair person coming out. Down the front, I've got some silicone to do the lights. So what I think I'm going to need to do is take them both off, fill them up with water to see where they're leaking, dry them out properly, silicone where the gaps and the leaks are, dry it out again, make sure it's all good to go. I know I've got at least one bulb that needs changing. I'll check them all, make sure the contacts and everything are clean, bolt them back in, and that should be the headlights sorted. It's the ballast was the phrase I was looking for. These lights don't have a ballast on them because they're not the super powerful ones, so that's good news because they get really expensive. You can be talking 400 or 500 quid a side, which just makes the economics of doing this not worth it. I haven't talked about it yet, but I've got some radiator mounting brackets there, and I'll show you them in a minute and why I need them. They were quite a key point on the price negotiation on this vehicle, and I'll show you that in a minute. At the back in the middle there, I've got some BXD Bulldog in the white box. So they've very kindly sent me out some product to test it and see what it looks like. That's not actually something I'm making any money out of. I won a competition, but I'm going to take the opportunity to use some free product and put it up against what I normally use, which is the WD-40. I've just got it turned the other way around, just because I don't want anyone thinking I favour one product or the other. So you can't see the Bulldog, so I'm not going to show the WD-40, but that's their releasing penetrating spray. So I think the two products side by side are going to be quite a good match. I've seen the Bulldog being used a lot on some of the channels like Furious Driving, so I'm keen to see how it works for me. But it's completely impartial because I'm not being paid anything, so you know, you'll get it from my experiences going side by side by something that you probably use yourself. And then just coming back to this kit again, I've gone for the matching brakes and pads. I've gone for these as well because they've got a 25,000 mile warranty on them, which is pretty handy, but that warranty only comes into play if you change the pads and the discs at the same time, so that's worth knowing as well, because I intend to sell the car on in the next few months, and it's just peace of mind for the next owner. So again, it's a bit like the button on the key fob, you know, I've spent a little bit more money to get that, but it just gives a bit more confidence to somebody buying a car from me that I've not cheaped out and that I've actually done things properly. And then in this Amazon package here, because I'm doing the rear discs, I need a rear caliper rewind kit, and again I bought a relatively cheap one off Amazon. I'll do an unboxing on that and we'll see if it works, and if it does work, then of course we can do the old referral links in the description box below. If it doesn't work, then I won't try and sell you it. Right, so let's have a quick look at the interior. So again, coming to my remote, it's still locked because I only did the bonnet release, so there we go. Looking in the back, it's a good size. I mean, I've had the kids and the wife in this on a trip up to Yorkshire, and to be fair, they were very comfortable, very happy in the back. You've got a decent little armrest that folds down. It's got cup holders. It's got a little firm area, a little box that you can store, like, I don't know, charging leads, things like that, that are always useful. And you can also get access into the back through this hatch. It might be shut actually, yeah, you can lock it from the other side. But that's really useful, because how often do you put a bag in the back that you just need to, yeah, the kids want a bag of crisps or something like that. It's a really nice touch, that. Down the front you've got vents, which is really handy again. If people get different kind of levels of temperature or they're feeling a bit cold, that's a great feature. And I do have to say, I love the fact there's multiple cigarette lighter points on this car, so it's really easy to charge devices, which is always a challenge when you've got the kids and you're doing a road trip. But yeah, nice and clean, wants a valet, but no issues there. All the doors, all the panel gaps are nice and straight, no problems whatsoever. Coming in the front, again, similar story. You've got loads and loads of handy little cubby holes. You've got a cigarette lighter there, you've got another cigarette lighter inside the armrest, the cigarette lighter is there, 2 cup holders with a little slide out cover, electronic parking brake, 6-speed with reverse on a lift and shift. In terms of features and what we've actually got, let me get into the vehicle. We've got automatic headlights, really nice feature, just means you can set and forget, you don't need to worry about that. Fog lights on there as well. Over here, bit limited in spec. This is a basic spec model, so it's got manual window winders in the back, electric in the front. You've got electric mirrors on the driver's side there, which is quite useful. And then in terms of your actual kit and equipment, I'll shut that door so it stops beeping at me. So I know I've got a light bulb I need to change. So as you can see there, we've done 108,408 miles so far. Car idle's absolutely lovely. I have to say the miles per gallon I've been getting out of this are pretty impressive. So yeah, I'm averaging 51.8, and that's a mix of motorway driving and around town as well. I can easily get 60 to 70 on the motorway, no bother, like cruising comfortably. If I drive carefully, then that's a lot more. And yeah, I've done 1,700 miles so far on this car, because I reset that when I got it, so happy with that. That's all pretty good. In terms of moving through the service spec, what does it want? Yeah, so it's got 20% oil left, so I will do a service on this in a future video, but it's not a priority right now. I think that's probably good till kind of March, April. So that'll definitely be done before we sell the car, but right now I'm not too fussed about that. Bit limited on where to put a phone on these. It's a bit tricky. The dashboard's not great for mounting anything easily, so I've put a little vent mounted holder there just so that I can get something in and working. It did come with one of these System 9 Bluetooth kits, but it's a bit knackered. There's a holder on that that's actually in the boot. I should have pointed that out. You know, if I take that out and sell it, I think I can get 30 or 40 quid maybe if I sit it on eBay and I'm not in a rush to sell. Turning to the actual controls on the wheel, then I've got cruise control over here. It's not the adaptive, you can get adaptive on these, but this is a base spec, so it's got normal cruise control. And then on this side you've got your Bluetooth controls, so accept or make a call, cancel or end a call. You've got features for scrolling for the menu, and you've got volume for your audio and your phone here, so if you're on the radio, you can turn it up or down there, nice and easy. Everyone's a winner. So yeah, so it's a nice place to be, to be honest. You haven't got a particularly sophisticated mirror, you've just got the old flick it up and down. I just showed you a picture of my wife by mistake there. Flick it up and down. There's a little bit of damage to the bottom of the mirror, but it's not anti-dazzle or anything like that, so that'd be really easy to replace and to make nice again. And when I am driving on the motor, I would say that it's a bit frustrating to go back to just that classic, like, just flick to not get dazzled. I don't think it ever gives you the same kind of sense of how far behind vehicles are, certainly not if you're not used to them, because you have anti-dazzle on other cars. But I have to say, heated mirrors I didn't mention, that's a great feature, so really happy with the spec on the car. For a base model, it's got a really good spec. And then one of the things I wanted to show you, if I just come down here to the bonnet release, is that issue with the radiators. Lovely thing about these Vauxhalls is they have the strut on the bonnet, so you don't have to mess about looking for where to put the strut up. So when I first got the vehicle, I noticed it's going to be quite difficult to see this, but I noticed down the bottom that it looked a bit minging, to be fair. It looked a bit corroded. It looked like the subframe, which you can see quite well there, was a fair bit rusty on it. And I have to be honest, I didn't want to get stung needing to stick a new subframe on a vehicle, because it's not so much that it's a difficult thing to do, it's just quite an involved job. There's a bit of labour to it. It's not an easy job for me to do on a driveway, so I'm probably going to get somebody else to do it. And that just adds to my costs, and I don't really want to get straight into that with a car unless I'm getting it very, very cheap. The fella wanted $2,900 for the car, and I didn't want to pay anywhere near that. So, you know, we had a bit of an argument about that. Well, not an argument, he was absolutely sound, absolutely fine, but I had to explain to him why it was a concern and what that meant. The real issue, and you can see it now, if I stick my toe underneath it, if I can reach it, I can't quite reach it, but there's a round hole in the middle, just down below there, that round hole there. That is meant to locate a mounting bracket for the radiator, which is obviously at the front along underneath here, and there's one over the other side which isn't quite so easy to see. These were absolutely rusted through and loose, so actually this radiator, that whole section of radiator, is just being held on by the top clips and the actual pipes and all the rest of it. That's not ideal, because what can happen with this is you've got a load of pipe work down the bottom, and if you're not careful, the radiator can move and start to rub on those pipes, and it'll start to work its way through. Turns out this is really common, happens on a lot of these vehicles. So the parts were cheap, 15 quid, and I reckon I can take the radiator off, get myself plenty of access, get the bumper off, get plenty of access. I can do the lights, and I can tidy up the undercarriage, because actually it looks like that rust isn't too bad on the subframe. I'll just stone chip it, clean it off and stone chip it. What I was looking at that was panicking me has turned out to be these radiator bolts, so pretty simple and easy fix. I've got away with that one, I think. However, what then alarmed me was I'd seen this car and I'd viewed it a couple of times, and then we'd not agreed a price, but the guy had come back to me a couple of weeks later and I didn't bother looking at it again. When I did buy it and I opened it up, and I've wiped it so it's cleaner now just to see if it comes back, but there's a whole load of oily deposit around this, and this being my turbo, I was a bit worried, well, why is the oil coming off that? Because that's the airbox there, so there shouldn't be any oil between these sections here. So straight away I started thinking, right, okay, have I got a problem with that turbo? I cleaned that off about, as I say, 1700 miles ago, so I think the short answer is no, I'm probably all right on that. However, it's definitely something I'm going to keep an eye on, and when I valet it, I'm going to give the engine bay a decent clean through. I'm going to make sure that I haven't got any oil spots or anything like that. Like I said, it's a 2-litre engine, super economical. The oil itself is pretty clean, yeah, for a diesel anyway. It looks fine. There's no issues with any gunk or anything like that in the header. I've checked the brake fluid and there's no water or moisture, and that's good to go. I've had a good look at the coolant. I haven't checked it chemically, but it looks absolutely clean. There's no streaks or smears or anything like that. The whole thing works really nicely. There's no problems. Like I say, I've got the headlights, I've got those radiator mounting bolts to do. I'll give the subframe a decent stone chip, but actually, to be fair, for the age of the car and the mileage it's done, it's in really good nick. I'm very happy with that. So the plan for this vehicle is to do the back brakes. I'm going to do the work on the front separately, and then I've got the paint repair to do. I'll give it a decent clean and a polish. We'll have a look at the rest of the bodywork and see what else might want doing. I don't want to throw loads of money into it, but I'm probably looking at maybe 300 or 400 quid's worth of time and effort and parts. So it's not outrageous, and that 300 or 400 quid includes a full service, by the way. So I haven't priced that up yet, but that'll be a future video. And yeah, the whole car should come back together quite nicely. And I'm seeing Corsas of the same age going for being advertised for 4.5 grand, which I just think is nuts when you could get an Insignia. You've got all this extra space and all this extra comfort. So yeah, very happy with that. Please like, subscribe, and make sure you stick a comment in the box below. That'll help the channel, and obviously if you subscribe, you're going to get first notification on any of the future videos that come out on the brakes and the other bits that we've talked about. Thanks for your time. Bye bye.